All right, let's just dive right in. The most important question we need to be asking right now isn't about what just happened in the Strait of Hormuz. No, it's about the next crisis. So the real question is, are we actually building the right infrastructure, the right alliances, and the right frameworks to survive it?
Look, if the strait could be shut down once, it can absolutely be shut down again. The real issue here isn't if, but when, and whether we'll be any more prepared next time or if we're just going to get caught flat-footed all over again.
So what's the big threat? You might think it's some kind of all-out war, but actually the most feared scenario is, well, it's something a lot more insidious. It's a state of permanent, low-grade disruption that just becomes the new normal.
Picture this. It's the year 2030. There's this fragile ceasefire in place, right? But Iran and its proxies, they've had years to rearm. We're talking more drones, better sea mines, more sophisticated jamming tech. Everything's just simmering, ready to boil over at any moment.
And this is the part you really gotta get. The real threat here isn't one single catastrophic event. It's this constant drip, drip, drip of incidents. A mine is found here, a small drone attack there, and boom, each time insurance premiums go through the roof, global trade slows to a crawl, and oil prices spike. It's that permanent uncertainty that markets and insurers really, really fear. It would turn the world's most vital energy choke point into its most unreliable.
So, how do you even survive a future that looks like that? Well, it would take a massive, coordinated global effort to build up some real resilience. Let's break down the 6 absolutely critical things that right now they don't exist.
All right, so here it is, the survival checklist. And listen, every single one of these is a monumental project. Each one is designed to plug a huge vulnerability that the last crisis showed us we have. Let's dig into what these really mean for all of us.
First up, you've got to be able to bypass the strait completely. Right now, pipelines can maybe handle a quarter of the 20 million barrels of oil that go through Hormuz every single day. We'd need to build enough new pipeline capacity to move all of it, every last drop, overland.
And the cost? I mean, just to wrap your head around this, we're talking up to $200 billion. And that's not an overnight fix. That's a project that would take more than a decade to complete. It's a massive, truly global investment.
Next, let's talk about Qatar's big weak spot, liquefied natural gas, or LNG. Literally 100% of its exports have to squeeze through Hormuz. And here's the kicker. Unlike oil, you can't just shove natural gas into a simple pipe. Nope. It needs these gigantic, incredibly complex liquefaction plants.
So building an alternative, like a whole new Qatar-sized LNG facility over on the Red Sea coast, is another one of these once-in-a-generation projects. The price tag? Oh, just another $100 billion. To give you some perspective, that's more than the entire yearly economic output of a lot of countries.
The other 4 solutions are just as crucial. You've got fertilizer reserves. Why does that matter? Because a disruption in Hormuz, which is a key route for ammonia and urea, could literally spark a global food crisis. Then you need a permanent, multinational naval force, a rapid response team that's always ready to go, because throwing together a coalition after a crisis starts is just way too slow. Then there's insurance. We have to formalize these government backstops, make it a multinational thing so global trade doesn't just seize up when premiums spike. And finally, tech. We need to create these digital maritime corridors, using AI and autonomous systems to protect ships from all that jamming and cyber attack stuff.
So that's the dream, right? The blueprint for a world that's actually prepared. But now it's time for a pretty sobering reality check. What out of all this stuff is actually going to get built?
This table pretty much lays out the hard truth. Expanding pipelines in Saudi and the UAE, yeah, that's almost a given. They've got the cash, and they've definitely got the motive. Better naval cooperation? Yep, likely. The last crisis was a huge wake-up call for everyone. But as we move down this list, the picture gets a lot grimmer. Strategic fertilizer reserves? Nah, too boring. Nobody's going to champion that. That massive LNG bypass for Qatar, with that price tag and that complexity, it's very, very unlikely to happen.
So here's the bottom line. We'll do something, but we're not going to do enough. We'll definitely be better prepared than we were last time, for sure. But fully prepared? Not even close. At the end of the day, the world will probably get about half of what's on that resilience checklist done.
And this whole situation brings up a much bigger, more fundamental question, one that goes way beyond just the Strait of Hormuz. Are we, as a species, even capable of investing in this kind of resilience before the disaster strikes?
Or are we just wired to react?
Well, if you look at history, the answer is pretty clear. And it's not great. We only seem to act after the catastrophe. Think about it. We only created strategic oil reserves after the oil shocks of the 70s nearly brought the world to its knees. We only fixed banking rules after the 2008 financial system melted down. We only built up new vaccine capacity after a global pandemic had already started. The pattern? It's just undeniable.
Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. Every single major systemic reform in modern history has been reactive, not proactive. We don't spend the money to prevent a risk when it's just a theory on paper. We only open the checkbook to fix the system after the catastrophe smacks us in the face and proves the risk was real the whole time.
So when you look at that historical pattern, it leads you to a pretty stark, pretty unavoidable conclusion about the price we pay for just waiting around.
It really boils down to this. It's that simple. We know, we don't act, we pay. And that's not just the story of Hormuz. That's the story of almost every huge systemic risk we face. We have the data, we see the threat coming, we know exactly what we need to do, but we just don't act. Not until we're forced to, and then we pay the price in full.
And that leaves us, well, it leaves us right here with this question. The vulnerability in the Strait of Hormuz isn't going away. Another crisis is coming. And when it hits, are we all just going to be looking around at each other, asking that same old question all over again? Why didn't we fix this when we had the chance? That right there is the real challenge.